It's Shay, and I got some books to talk about. So it's been a while since I last posted a video. I apologize. I was probably banking on motivation to get me posting, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go with discipline. Yes, discipline. And post more often. I don't know how often, but more often for sure. Uno momento. So, I don't really have an order here. It's just the books I have finished reading this year that I still have in my possession. And maybe I'll remember a few that I took to the library. Oh, wait, I have my reading journal. It's around the corner. Let me get that. Okay. Handy dandy reading journal. So I can talk about the ones that I don't have in my possession. All right, so let's start with Remarkably Bright Creatures. This was a book club pick for the book club that I run, where we pair wine to the books, and we were able to find these wines with the octopus on the label, which was really cool. Octopoda, Pinot Noir, and Cabernet Sauvignon that we paired with a couple of other wines. One that would go well with Marcellus's diet of shellfish, and another wine that was from Washington State. So, with that being known, the book. I did not enjoy this book, and I messed it up for myself because I read a reading guide that, like a Cliff's Notes kind of version, that spoiled everything without me reading it. So there really was no way for me to enjoy this book when I knew everything that was going to happen. And as the reader that I am, I like to not know what's going on. But as I read it, I did go back and read the book after I read the guide. And I don't know, it just felt kind of predictable. And the characters were a little annoying to me, especially Ethan with his gossiping all over town. And I felt like it was a little too much grief for me. Like, everybody around Tova was just dying, and that was not my vibe. Marcellus was elitist and pompous jerk. I didn't like the octopus, but I think maybe if I had listened to the audiobook, as a lot of people in my book club did, if I had listened to the audiobook for this, I would have felt different. It would have been like a character, Marcellus, the grumpy, elitist octopus. And I mean, it's a character regardless, but I think I would have understood the point was for him to be like this grumpy, elitist character. And I don't know, I just felt like a lot of the stuff that happened was unbelievable, and I was being asked to suspend my disbelief in just one area where the rest of the book was pretty realistic, and that was just really hard for me. So this did not go well, but I read it. This book by Danye Coles called Midnight Rooms, I just finished today. Did I finish it today or yesterday? Whatever. Just finished this book, and whoa. I don't think I've ever been scared reading a book before, but today I can tell you this book scared the shit out of me. I was just so terrified for about maybe the first 2/3 of the book, and then the suspense lifted for me towards the end. I was just kind of confused in the end, but not in an unpleasant way, just kind of like, WTF is going on with this girl right now. But so this book is about a girl named Arabella, and she is an orphan. She lives with her aunt and uncle. Her parents have died, and this is back in the day. This is considered like historical fiction, And it's back in the day when what would happen is you want your girls married off. You're trying to get rid of them, get them out of the house, or else you have to take care of them because women can't work and earn their own money and own things. So every woman is like a burden. So you're trying to like get this burden off to some other person. So some guy comes by the house talking about he wants to marry Arabella, and he'll pay off the uncle's gambling debts if he just hands her over. Problem is, they don't know each other and they don't have time to get to know each other. She just has to agree to marry him like on the spot. So she's looking around at her options and she's like, oh, this man will treat me well. And she says yes. Lord have mercy, this poor girl. She goes back to his house with him like the next day. She's just packed up everything, packed up all her stuff. She doesn't have much. And he'll replace whatever. He says he's rich and he'll take care of her. She'll never want for anything. He's going to spoil her. And he takes her back to this crumbling mansion, and it's like rotting, and like just windows are busted and mushrooms are growing in the house, and it's crazy. So this is the story, Midnight Rooms. Yeah, this is crazy. Very gothic. Okay, because you have this crumbling mansion, this existential dread going on, this sense of just haunting and somberness. So I recommend this book. I haven't rated it yet. I don't know what I'm going to rate it. It's going to be between 4 and 5 stars, but not sure. Midnight Rooms. Then the first book I finished in April. I only read 2 books in April. I only finished 2 books in April. In April, I was reading a lot of stuff that was a little hard to digest easily. So, hard to digest easily. Hard to do easily. I picked this up because it was a thriller by a Black woman writer about a Black woman situation, gentrification in her neighborhood. And there is a pharmaceutical company moving in on the block, and they want to, have their lab in her neighborhood. When there was a drug crisis, they didn't want to come in and help out. So why you want to have your lab here? And she's walking around on this walking tour of her neighborhood just to kind of be snoopy and see what they say about on the tour. And they're just talking about, in historical figures that lived in the neighborhood, and they all happen to be white people. And she takes offense to that and starts interjecting, Black facts about the current residents. And the lady who's running the tour suggests that, why don't you run your own tour if you don't like how this is going? And she's like, maybe I will. So what happens in this book is white people start moving into the neighborhood, but it's kind of like, what happened to my neighbor though? Like, I've known them for years and they just disappeared. That doesn't make sense. Why didn't they say bye? So she's got to start figuring out what's going on with that. So this book was good. And there was one sex scene in this book, and I really enjoyed it. So I did some research and found out that Alyssa Cole is originally a romance writer. So I want to check out some of her romance because I did like the romantic scene. Memoirs of a Geisha. I read this one back in February, and I really did enjoy this book. Now, there is a big controversy around the book. Arthur Golden was interviewing a woman, an actual geisha, and she, agreed to let him use her information for his writing on the condition that she remain anonymous. Well, he name drops her in like the acknowledgments or something. and she's pissed Susan wins, all that goes on, and then she writes her own book, and it's called Geisha, a Memoir, and I have it, a life of a geisha, something like that, and I have it. So I do want to read that book because I did read this book, and I want to know what the difference is in the representation of the geisha and what they talk about, because this book definitely emphasized certain aspects of geisha life as told by a Western white man and his things that are significant to him that he wanted to describe and catalog and bring forth to the people. And I'm sure there's other aspects of geisha life and geisha culture that the woman, Misak, what is her name? Because he drops her name, Minako Iwasaka. And so I want to read her book too. So I don't know if I'll get to that one this year, but I will get to it. Memoirs of a Geisha was good. It's about a girl who grows up in this seaside town with her sister, her mom and dad, and she meets this guy, like the CEO of her dad's company. He like fishes or something. So the guy, I don't know if he's a CEO or the owner or whatever. He's the boss. He's the big dude. And basically her mom dies and he offers his dad an opportunity to send the girls off for a better life because he's just some old fart on the seaside and he can't do shit for them. So he agrees, basically sells his daughters to the guy. I don't know if he got money, it doesn't say, but these girls get sent up the river to the city and story goes from there. So ends up being a geisha. Now, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. This was presented to me as a magical realism opportunity a la Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. It is not. It is not. It is not like that book at all. It's okay. I think I would have enjoyed it more had it not been compared to one of my favorite books. But in this story, we have Orquídea Divina, who has decided it's time to call her extended family to her home and give them their inheritance. I guess she thinks she's dying. I don't know. So they all come to the house and there's this big magical situation. She turns into a tree. They're all confused. We don't know what to do next. And kind of there's this sort of magical problem that some of them have. They have like flowers growing out of them. I don't know, it's weird. So yeah, it was kind of weird. I think it's more fantasy than magical realism. The flowers were strange. They were treated as strange. The people within the family kind of decided, okay, whatever, this is how our family goes. But the rest of the world was kind of like, what's going on with you guys? Maybe that is magical realism. I don't know. I felt like this was more fantasy. Like this was more magical for like the purpose of being different and shocking. Whereas with magical realism, I feel like it just falls in line with whatever is going on in the story is treated as just part of our day. Whatever magical thing happens, it's like, oh, so-and-so's flying again. Okay. You know? So, Orquídea Divina, I would recommend this for maybe a younger audience. Not like young adult, but like new adult, you know? Like super grown, I feel like this is kind of immature. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think I would have liked this book better if it wasn't, if no one told me that it was like 100 Years of Solitude. All right. Work Husband by Octavia Grant. I saw Shaughnessy Schroeder talking about this book on her channel, and I thought it was going to be longer. It's just this little, I can't even call this a novella. This is like a short story to me. It's 62 pages. So this was very entertaining. That's all I have to say about that. If you want to be entertained by like an outrageous story, pick this one up. It's a short story. Very short. Okay, so the books that had me backed up in April. This is one of them. When and Where I Enter by Paula Giddings. This is about women, feminism, race, and civil rights, activism, and the people who were leading the charge, like Ida B. Wells. And there's two main women in the beginning that they talk about. Ida B. Wells is one of them. The other one is what is her name? I want to find it. So give me a second. Whites and blacks. Yeah, there's like this lynching right in the beginning. I don't know, man. Ida B. Wells and another woman. It's some really heavy material, heavy subject matter that I'm dealing with. I did make a lot of annotations in the book. I'm having a good time with it, but it's not really something I feel the need to read from front to back in a consecutive manner. This is like something I'll pick up over time and get stuff from. It seems to make more sense to come to this book when I have questions about something specific, but it's also good to just pop in and read it. So I don't know, y'all. It was just holding me down. It was not something I was going to get through quickly. And so I just paused it and put it to the side. So this book is on pause. Another book I put on pause is called Labyrinth Lost. Now, I picked this up by Zoraida Cordova before I finished The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. And I don't regret starting this book. I got about halfway. It's a YA fantasy about a girl with magical abilities who loses her family in a spell gone wrong and has to travel through magical lands to get them back. So this is a trilogy. I almost bought all 3 books like right away. And then I was like, I don't really read series that well. So why would I go buy a series? I'm probably not going to read all the books. I didn't even finish the first book. But this book is on pause. It's not really grabbing me to come back to it, but I kind of have a goal to finish more books than I DNF this year, which I'm a prolific DNFer. So I think I want to finish this just for the sake of finishing it. Then we have Audre Lorde's The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. And this is pathetic, but I have not finished this one either. It's only about like 50 pages, and it's this teeny book, so they're like half pages. But there's so much to take from each one of these essays. So my favorite one so far is Uses of Anger, Women Responding to Racism. That is the story or the speech or essay that I have gone through the most thoroughly so far. And I think that's what's slowing me down with this, is her words beckon me to absorb them further. I can't just surface glean over the writings, the essays in this book, because they just demand more from me. They demand some contemplation, some further analysis, some research, some challenging my own opinions and beliefs, and seeing where I land as far as what Audre Lorde stirs up in me. So I am still working on this one right here. PG County by Connie Briscoe. I am aware of the area known as PG County, so I wanted to pick this up. At one point, it was known as the most wealthy population of Black people in the United States. PG County, Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. And that is no longer true. It's another county in Maryland, but they still got some dollars floating around PG County. So this is just like a soap opera. This is messy. This is romantic. It's scandalous. And I was enjoying reading it, but then I just kind of lost interest. And this is on pause. I do plan on finishing this because it's about PG County. Like I gotta know. And yeah, I just wasn't really locked in to the specific brand of drama that was being presented, but it was still like an interesting read. I once again got about halfway through, and I will be finishing this one though. The Invention of Women. This book is the bane of my existence. I really want to read it so bad. I just want to finish this book, but I have such a hard time with it because it's like, it's so dense and academic. It's like a college text, or it's like maybe somebody's dissertation or something, you know? Something that it's about how in Yoruba culture, we're discoursing about gender through the lens of Yoruba culture prior to colonization by Europe. So they didn't have these distinctions between men and women that we make in the Western world. They would focus more on distinctions made by age group. So you've got your children, your adults, your parents, your grandparents. It was a seniority by age kind of society where men and women were distinguished by their sex organs for certain reasons, but throughout society, you didn't have like salesmen and saleswomen. They weren't, you were a salesperson, period. Like, they didn't have kings and queens, they had rulers. So it just kind of talks about how framing the world through this lens of gender affects every aspect of your life. Whereas the way the world was framed by the Yoruba, where, for another example, they would privilege their sense of hearing over their sense of sight. So in the Western world, we have what's known as like our worldview. And that right there is evidence. It's kind of a tell that the Western world privileges sight above other senses. Whereas in Yoruba culture back then, prior to European influence, they would focus on their hearing, and that would be the most prominent sense that was played to throughout, you know, your life, and that's what you paid attention to. They have a more heightened sense of hearing because they do pay attention to that organ. So this book is testing me and testing my patience, and I was trying to read this one and this one at the same time, and it was just like, no, I'm not in college right now. Like, stop it. Don't do that to yourself. So I paused both of those books, but I will be finishing both of those at some point. And speaking of our sense of hearing and our sense of sight, and which senses we privilege, I read Cork Dork. This was the first book we read at the book club that I started this January. And we paired some wines to it, of course. It was great. But this book does have some parts in it where she talks about your sense of smell and how we don't privilege our sense of smell. We don't develop it, and we could all smell and taste better, and it would improve our lives and our ability to enjoy our food and beverages and other things that have like just, being able to differentiate between different types of flowers and how they smell, different types of, I don't know, different things that smell. So yeah, that made me think about this book too. But this is a memoir of a woman who was a journalist and decided she wanted to become a sommelier. So that is somebody who is an expert in wine and can help you pick the right type of wine to go with your food or the occasion or whatever your parameters are. You talk to the sommelier, they help you pick a bottle. So she decided she wanted to take the Court of Master Sommeliers examination for the Certified Sommelier, which is their third, is it their level? No, it's their second level examination. I don't know. So I think it's their second level examination. Yeah. In a year. So she puts this deadline on herself, and she's swimming through the wine world. She's meeting all these, savants in wine and going to these Michelin-starred restaurants to train and just really learning and showing you how it is to deep dive into the wine world in a short amount of time. So Cork Dork was so freaking good to me because I am a sommelier myself. And I just really enjoy reading other women's experiences in wine and just, the deep dives, the behind the scenes, everything. I just really enjoyed this book. And I listened to it on audiobook as well as reading it the physical version. And I really enjoyed both sides of it, the audiobook and the physical book. So this is my big winner so far this year. My favorite book I've read this year, The Inhabited Woman by Gioconda Belli. I found this at the thrift store, just walking around, minding my business. I picked up an Audre Lorde because I was like, duh. But then I saw this little spine on the shelf, and I said, what is that about? And I picked it up, and there's just this one paragraph on the back, and it says, Lavinia is the inhabited woman, accomplished, independent, and fiercely modern. She is sheltered and self-involved until the spirit of an Indian woman warrior enters her being. Then she dares to join a revolutionary movement against a violent dictator, and through the power of love, finds the courage to act. And I was like, for $1? Yes, I'm in. So yeah, it was at the thrift store, and I picked it up. Loved this book. Just absolutely adored it. This is magical realism, so much closer to what I'm looking for when I'm thinking about magical realism. Even though that portion of the story was a little underdeveloped, in my opinion, it was still like an awesome book, and it shows how you go through this slow process of radicalization into a militant group. And the end, ooh, y'all, the last scene of this book is just fire, okay? Like, I could not put it down. The last scene of this book was just like, this is a book that I was putting down and coming back to, but when we got to that last scene, there was no interruptions, no stopping, no using the bathroom, no washing the dishes. You need to know what happens. How does it end? That's how it was. So I really, really enjoyed this book. It's a great exploration of just like what it means to form a stance when you're presented with new information, and how you go through that process of, I used to think this and now I think this, and all the twisty turny bits where you're trying to change, but you are who you are already. And it was just so good. Loved it. And the other book that I really enjoyed this year is The Street by Ann Petrie. This one is also pretty gothic in that we have this dark, dusty, windy street that she lives on, and it's in the ghetto. There is a super in the building who's pretty scary and weird. There's a woman who runs a whorehouse out of the front rooms. There is some guy who's trying to get with her and therefore putting obstacles in her way. Like, it's just so much going on. And poor Ludi is just trying to live. She's just trying to make it on her own. She's trying to raise her son the best way she can. She used to be married, okay? Don't come at me with that single mother bullshit, all right? She was married when she got pregnant, but husband did her dirty, so whatever. And it's just about the struggle. The struggle is real. The streets will eat you alive. And my favorite part of this book comes in the end, where Ann Petrie just kind of says, what good would it do to teach somebody like me how to write? And I was like, what? Girl, stop it. You just said that at the end of this whole book. You, girl, we needed you writing. Yes. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars, as well as The Inhabited. I gave this like 4.75, but I think I like this one more. I don't know how ratings work like that, but as like technically executed, this was a better book. This one, I don't know. They're both really good books. I say read both of these. So that's it for the books I have in my possession, and this video is long enough, so I will make another video about the books that are not in my possession that I've read this year. Deuces.